The dead world turned slowly under a cold sun. Once, it had been called Earth. Now, it was just another rock in the darkness, marked on Coalition star maps as Sector 447b. Nothing lived here, nothing moved. The cities were dust. The oceans were gone. Only silence remained. Dr. Hana stood at the edge of the excavation site and stared into the hole. Her team had been drilling for rare metals when they found something unexpected. A door. Buried under 200 meters of ash and debris made from metal that their scanners couldn't identify. It was old. Very old. "How long has it been down there?" asked Bora, the young linguist standing beside her. Bora's blue skin shimmered in the dim light. She was Tellurian, one of the 12 species in the Galactic Coalition. 600 years, maybe more. Hana's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among her people. "Before the Coalition, before any of us reached the stars." "The humans," Bora whispered. Everyone knew the stories. Humans were the ghost species, the ones who destroyed themselves in fire and madness before they could join the galaxy. Primitive, violent, gone. The door opened with a hiss of ancient air. Hana's team moved carefully down the metal stairs. Emergency lights flickered on, powered by some impossible battery that still held a charge after centuries. The walls were lined with symbols neither Hana nor Bora could read. Strange letters in an unknown language. They found the pods in a long chamber deep underground. Rows and rows of glass cylinders, each containing a frozen body. Humans. Hana had seen pictures in museums, but seeing one in person was different. They looked so small. So fragile. 2 arms, 2 legs, short lifespans, weak muscles. How had they ever survived long enough to build anything? "They're all dead," said one of the technicians, checking the readouts. "Power failures. System crashes. These pods weren't meant to last this long." But one pod was different. One pod still hummed with power. The liquid inside was still cold. The body inside was still preserved. "This one is alive," Hana said, her voice barely a whisper. "Get Captain Dongwu. Now." Captain Dongwu arrived within the hour, his military transport landing in a storm of dust. He was Krellian, tall and covered in gray scales, with eyes that missed nothing. He looked at the pod for a long time without speaking. "A human," he finally said. "A real human." "We can wake him up," Hana said. "The medical systems are still functioning." "But Captain, we need permission from the Coalition Council. This is unprecedented." Dongwu shook his head. "That will take weeks, months. By then, something could fail. If we're going to do this, we do it now." He turned to face her directly. "Can you save him?" "I think so. But I don't know what we'll be saving." They brought the pod up to the research vessel, the Eternal Horizon. It took 3 days to prepare the medical bay. 3 days of running simulations and checking equipment. Bora spent those days trying to decode the symbols on the pod. She found a name written in faded letters on a metal plate. "Tae-min," she said, sounding out the syllables carefully. "I think that's his name." The revival process began at dawn, station time. Hana watched the monitors as the pod slowly warmed. The ice melted. The chemicals drained away. The body inside began to move. His eyes opened. Tae-min woke up screaming. He thrashed against the restraints, shouting words no one understood. His voice was raw with terror and rage. Hana tried to calm him, but he didn't seem to see her. He was somewhere else, somewhere terrible. It took 4 security officers to hold him down. 4 trained soldiers struggling against one small human. When the sedative finally took effect, they all stood back, breathing hard. "How is he so strong?" one of them asked. Hana didn't have an answer. Over the next weeks, Tae-min slowly came back to himself. The panic faded. The nightmares remained, but he learned to hide them. Bora sat with him every day, teaching him Coalition Standard, the common language of the galaxy. He was a quick learner, too quick. Within a month, he could hold simple conversations. "Where am I?" he asked one morning, his accent thick but understandable. "You're on a Coalition research vessel," Bora explained gently. "You've been asleep for a very long time." "How long?" Bora hesitated. 600 years. Something changed in his eyes. A light went out. "Earth," he said quietly. "What happened to Earth?" "I'm sorry," Bora said. "Earth is gone. Your people are gone. You're the only one we've found alive." Taemin didn't cry. He just nodded and looked away. Bora wanted to comfort him, but she didn't know how. What could you say to the last member of an extinct species? The medical scans revealed something troubling. Taemin's body was wrong. His bones were too dense. His muscles were too compact. His heart beat with mechanical precision. There were tiny machines in his blood, so small they were almost invisible. His brain showed unusual activity patterns, with neural pathways no natural evolution could create. "He's been modified," Hana told Captain Dongwu. "Enhanced. The humans did something to him before they put him in that pod." "Enhanced how?" "I don't know yet, but he's stronger than he looks, faster. His reflexes are incredible. Captain, whatever the humans were doing before the end, it wasn't just building bunkers, they were changing themselves." The Coalition Council contacted them 2 months after the revival. The debate was fierce. Some wanted Taemin brought to the capital for study. Others wanted him destroyed as a potential threat. Some simply didn't believe he existed. Captain Dongwu made his position clear. "He's a person, not a specimen. He stays here, under my protection, until we understand what we're dealing with." Taemin spent his days learning about the galaxy he'd woken up in. 12 species working together in peace. Thousands of worlds connected by faster-than-light travel. Art, culture, science flourishing across the stars. Everything humanity had dreamed of achieving, but never lived to see. He tried to be grateful. He tried to adapt. But sometimes, late at night, when he thought no one was watching, Bora would see him staring out at the stars with an expression she couldn't read. Loss, anger, something else, something that made her uneasy. "What was it like?" she asked him once. "Your world, before?" Taemin was quiet for a long time. "We were scared," he finally said. "Always scared. Something was coming, something terrible. We knew it would end us. So we prepared. We changed ourselves. We built weapons. We tried everything." He looked at his hands, flexing the fingers slowly. "I don't think it was enough." "What was coming?" "I don't remember clearly. The cryo-sleep, it damaged some memories. But I remember fear. I remember fighting. And I remember knowing we would lose." 3 months after his awakening, during a routine physical exam, Taemin accidentally destroyed a medical scanner. He barely touched it, just rested his hand on the metal surface, and it crumpled like paper. Everyone in the room froze. "I'm sorry," Taemin said quickly. "I didn't mean to. I don't know my own strength yet." But the security chief, Ji-woo, saw it differently. He watched the recording over and over. The ease with which Taemin had crushed solid metal. The flash of something in his eyes just before it happened. Not surprise, recognition. "He's dangerous," Ji-woo told Captain Dongwu. "Whatever the humans made him into, it's still in there, and I don't think he's telling us everything." Captain Dongwu looked at the recording one more time. "Keep watching him," he said, "but carefully. I don't want him to feel like a prisoner." "Captain, with respect, maybe he should be." That night, Taemin lay in his quarters and stared at the ceiling. He could feel them watching him. He could hear their whispers through the walls, even though they thought he couldn't. His enhanced hearing picked up everything. They were afraid of him. They should be, because Taemin remembered more than he'd told them. He remembered what had come for Earth. He remembered what humanity had been fighting. And he remembered that they hadn't destroyed themselves, they'd been destroyed. And if he was alive, if his pod had survived, then maybe, just maybe, the enemy had survived too. 3 months passed on the eternal horizon. Tae-min learned to walk among aliens like he belonged there. He learned their customs, their languages, their jokes. He smiled when they smiled. He ate their food even when it tasted like metal. He pretended to be harmless. But Ji-woo wasn't fooled. The security chief watched every movement, every conversation, every moment when Tae-min thought no one was looking. And what he saw worried him deeply. "He moves wrong," Ji-woo told his second-in-command late one night. They were reviewing security footage in his office. "Watch this." On the screen, Tae-min walked down a corridor. A crew member came around the corner too fast, nearly colliding with him. Tae-min sidestepped. The movement was too smooth, too fast. One moment he was in the path, the next he wasn't. No ordinary person could move like that. "Could be reflex," the second-in-command suggested. "That's not reflex, that's training. Combat training." Ji-woo switched to another recording. And look at this. Tae-min sat in the mess hall, surrounded by crew members. He was laughing at someone's story, looking relaxed. But his eyes never stopped moving, scanning exits, tracking movements, calculating distances. Even when he seemed calm, he was always ready for a fight. "What do you want to do?" the second-in-command asked. "I want better locks on his quarters. I want sensors in every room he enters. And I want to know exactly what those enhancements can do before he decides to show us." Bora noticed the increased security, but she didn't understand it. To her, Tae-min was just lonely, the last of his kind, trying to find a place in a universe that had moved on without him. She spent hours with him, teaching him about coalition history, sharing stories about her own homeworld. "What was your job?" she asked him one afternoon. They sat in the observation deck watching stars drift past. "Before you were frozen." "I was a soldier," Tae-min said. "Special operations. We went places other soldiers couldn't go. Did things other soldiers couldn't do." "That sounds dangerous." "It was necessary." His face was hard when he said it. "We didn't have a choice." Bora wanted to ask more, but something in his expression stopped her. Instead, she changed the subject. "Dr. Hana wants to run more tests tomorrow. Are you okay with that?" "I don't think I have a choice about that either." The tests were routine at first. Blood samples, brain scans, reflex measurements. But when Hana asked Tae-min to grip a force meter, everything changed. The device was designed to measure strength across all coalition species. The maximum reading was 5,000 newtons, enough to crush bone. Tae-min gripped it casually. The meter shot past 5,000, past 10,000, past 15,000. The device shattered in his hand. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, dropping the pieces. "I'll pay for it." But Hana wasn't angry. She was amazed and terrified. "Tae-min, do you know how strong you are?" "Strong enough." He looked at his hand. Small drops of blue blood, his blood, dripped from where the broken metal had cut him. As they watched, the cuts sealed themselves. In seconds, his skin was smooth again. "You heal too," Hana whispered. "How?" "The enhancements. They put machines in our blood. Nanobots, we called them. They repair damage, enhance muscle response, improve neural processing. Every soldier in my unit had them." "Why? What were you fighting that needed such modifications?" Tae-min met her eyes. "Something worse than you can imagine." The engineer, Hyun-soo, found Tae-min in the cargo bay late that night. The human sat alone, sketching on a data pad. Hyun-soo almost left, not wanting to intrude, but curiosity got the better of him. "What are you drawing?" he asked. Tae-min looked up, startled. Then he relaxed. "Just remembering." Old designs from Earth. Hyun-soo looked at the screen and froze. The design showed a weapon unlike anything in Coalition arsenals. Compact, efficient, deadly. The power requirements alone were staggering. This could work, Hyun-soo said slowly. The plasma containment system is brilliant. We've never thought of doing it this way. We had to. Normal weapons didn't work against them. Against who? But Taemin closed the pad and stood up. I should sleep. Early tests tomorrow. After he left, Hyun-soo stood in the empty cargo bay for a long time, thinking about that weapon design. Thinking about what kind of enemy would force an entire species to create something so terrible. The crew of the Eternal Horizon started treating Taemin differently after the strength test. They gave him more space in corridors. They spoke more carefully around him. They stopped inviting him to social gatherings. Only Bora and Hyun-soo still treated him like a person instead of a threat. They're afraid of me, Taemin told Bora one evening. Can you blame them? Bora said gently. You're stronger than any of us, faster. You heal from injuries that would kill us, and nobody knows what else you can do. I'm still just a person. Are you? The question came out before Bora could stop it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... No, you're right to ask. Taemin looked at his hands. Sometimes I wonder myself. How much of me is still human? How much is the enhancements, the machines in my blood, the combat programming in my brain? He was quiet for a moment. I have memories that don't feel like mine, skills I don't remember learning. Sometimes I react to things before I consciously process them. Is that me, or is it what they made me? Bora reached out and took his hand. You chose to be kind. You chose to learn our language, to understand our culture. You chose to help Dr. Hana with her research instead of refusing. Those choices make you a person. Taemin squeezed her hand gently. Thank you. But that night, alone in his quarters, the nightmares came back. He dreamed of fire and darkness, of ships falling from the sky, of creatures that moved through space like sharks through water, feeding on entire worlds. He woke up screaming, covered in sweat, his heart racing at twice its normal speed. The sensors in his room recorded it all. Jiwoo watched the recording the next morning, seeing how Taemin thrashed and fought invisible enemies in his sleep. Seeing how his body moved with lethal precision, even unconscious, and hearing the words he screamed in his native language, Hyun-soo helped translate. He's saying, they're coming back, they're always coming back. We can't stop them. Who's coming back? Jiwoo demanded. I don't know, but whatever it is, he's terrified of it. And if something can scare him... Hyun-soo didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Captain Dongwoo called a meeting with his senior staff. Hana presented her findings on Taemin's enhancements. Hyun-soo showed the weapon designs. Jiwoo shared the security footage. When they finished, everyone sat in silence. Recommendations? Dongwoo asked. Increased security protocols, Jiwoo said immediately. Restricted movement, possibly containment. He's not a prisoner, Hana objected. He's been cooperative with everything we've asked. Cooperative, yes. Honest, no. He's hiding something, something that terrifies him. Dongwoo looked at Bora. You spend the most time with him. What do you think? Bora chose her words carefully. I think he's traumatized. I think he watched his entire species die. And I think he knows something about how it happened. But I also think he's trying to protect us. Protect us from what? I don't know. Maybe from the truth. Maybe from whatever killed humanity. Or maybe from himself. Before Dongwoo could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The tactical officer's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain to the bridge. We found something. They had discovered a derelict ship floating in deep space. It was old, covered in strange markings. powered by technology nobody recognized. But what made it important was this. It was still active. Something inside was still running. "We need to investigate," Dongwu said. "Prepare an away team." "Captain," Jiwoo interjected, "the human. He needs to be secured before—" A door hissed open. Taemin walked onto the bridge. He looked at the view screen at the derelict ship, and his face went white. "No," he said. "You can't go there." "Why not?" Dongwu asked. "Because I know what that is." Taemin's voice shook. "That's one of theirs. That's a devourer ship." Everyone stared at him. "Get away from it," Taemin said urgently. "Get away now, before—" The derelict ship's lights came on, weapons ports opened, and suddenly the eternal horizon was under attack. The away team had already boarded. They were trapped inside when the ship woke up. Screams came over the radio, the sound of weapons fire, the sound of something else, something that moved in the darkness, hunting. "Pull them out," Dongwu ordered. "We can't get a lock," the transport officer reported. "Something's jamming our systems." "They're going to die," Taemin said quietly. Then louder, "They're all going to die unless I go get them." Jiwoo grabbed his arm. "You're not going anywhere." Taemin looked at the security chief, and for the first time, everyone on the bridge saw what he really was. His eyes changed, becoming cold and focused. His stance shifted into something predatory. His voice dropped to something that wasn't quite human anymore. "Let go. Now." Jiwoo's hand crushed around Taemin's arm. The human didn't even flinch. Instead, he moved. Too fast to follow. One moment, Jiwoo held him. The next, Jiwoo was on the floor, gasping for air, and Taemin stood at the transport pad. "Beam me over," Taemin said to the transport officer. "I'll bring them back." "Do it," Captain Dongwu ordered. The last thing the bridge crew heard before Taemin transported was his voice, calm and cold. "I really hoped you'd never have to see this." Taemin materialized inside the derelict ship and immediately dropped into a combat stance. The air was cold, ancient, wrong. The walls were organic, pulsing with faint light. This wasn't technology. This was something alive. Screams echoed from deeper in the ship. He ran toward them, moving through the twisted corridors with practiced ease. His enhanced eyes saw clearly in the darkness. His augmented hearing tracked every sound. The combat protocols activated in his mind, 600 years old but still perfect. He found the away team cornered in what might have been a cargo hold. 3 of them were already dead, torn apart by something with claws and teeth. The others huddled behind equipment, firing their weapons at shadows, and the shadows fought back. The creature was massive, all black chitin and razor edges. It moved on 6 legs, fast as lightning, with a mouth that split its head in 3 directions. A devourer scout, not one of the big ones, but still deadly enough to kill everyone here. Taemin picked up a piece of broken metal from the floor. It wasn't a weapon, but in his hands it became one. The creature noticed him and charged. Taemin waited until the last possible second, then moved. He slid under its body, the metal spike in his hand finding the weak point in its armor. The creature screamed, a sound that made everyone's ears bleed. It thrashed, trying to dislodge him. Taemin held on. His muscles, enhanced beyond human limits, didn't tire. He drove the spike deeper, twisting it, searching for the vital organs his training remembered. The creature's blood, black as oil, splashed across his face. Then it was over. The creature collapsed. Taemin stood in the silence, covered in gore, breathing steadily. He looked at the surviving crew members. Their faces showed pure terror. Not of the dead creature, of him. "Transport now," he said into his communicator. "Everyone who's still alive." They materialized on the eternal horizon. The medical team rushed forward. Security surrounded Taemin, weapons ready. He didn't resist. He just stood there, alien blood dripping onto the clean floor, while everyone stared. Captain Dongwu pushed through the crowd. Take him to the brig, he ordered. Medical teams, handle the injured. I want a full report in 1 hour. Captain, Taman said quietly, we need to leave this system. Now. That ship will call others. You don't give orders here. I'm not giving orders. I'm trying to save your lives. They locked him in the brig anyway. Taman didn't fight it. He sat on the metal bench, cleaned the blood from his hands, and waited. They would come asking questions soon enough. They always did. Dr. Hana came first. She sat outside the energy field that kept him contained and studied him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. You knew, she said. You knew what was on that ship. Yes. How? Because I've fought them before. Hundreds of times. We all did, everyone in my unit. They're called devourers. They consume worlds. That's what they do. That's all they do. Why didn't you tell us? Taman laughed, but there was no humor in it. Would you have believed me? The last human wakes up and immediately starts talking about monsters from beyond space. You already think I'm dangerous. Telling you the truth would have just made it worse. The truth would have prepared us. No, it would have terrified you. Just like I terrify you now. He met her eyes. I saw how you looked at me on the transport pad. How everyone looked at me. You finally saw what I am, what we had to become to fight them. Hana was quiet for a long moment. What happened to Earth? The truth this time. We were losing. We'd been fighting the Devourers for 20 years. Every battle cost us millions. Every victory was temporary. They kept coming, kept feeding, kept destroying. Taman's voice grew distant. So we changed ourselves, made ourselves into weapons, stronger, faster, harder to kill. We thought if we could just become deadly enough, we could win. Did it work? I don't know. I was frozen before the end. The plan was to hide the best soldiers in cryo, wake them up if humanity survived. If we could rebuild. He looked at his hands. But we didn't survive, did we? I'm sorry. Don't be. We knew the price. We paid it willingly. Better to die as humans than live as cattle. Captain Dongwu came next, with Jiwoo and several guards. The security chief had a bruise on his neck where Taman had struck him. He looked at the human with undisguised hatred. You attacked my officer, Dongwu said. I stopped him from preventing a rescue. There's a difference. You could have killed him. If I wanted to kill him, he'd be dead. Taman said it matter-of-factly, which somehow made it worse. I used exactly enough force to disable him without permanent injury. That's what I was trained to do. Trained by who? The Human Defense Initiative, Special Operations Division. We were the ones they sent when normal soldiers weren't enough. Taman stood up, moving to the energy field. Captain, I know you don't trust me. I know what I did today scared everyone on this ship. But you need to listen to me now. That Devourer ship is still active. It's sending a signal. More will come. Our sensors show nothing. Your sensors aren't designed to detect them. They move through subspace, through dimensions you don't have names for. By the time you see them, it's too late. Jiwoo spoke up. How convenient. The monster appears right after you arrive. Maybe you brought them here. Taman looked at him coldly. If I wanted to bring Devourers here, I wouldn't need a derelict ship. I'd just broadcast a standard distress call. They can smell prey from light years away. Enough, Dongwu said. Taman, you're going to tell us everything you know about these Devourers, every detail, every weakness, everything. On one condition. You're not in a position to make conditions. Then everyone on this ship will die. Taman's voice was flat. Because you have no idea what's coming. And without my help, you can't stop it. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Dongwu nodded. What's your condition? Access to your manufacturing facilities. I need to build weapons, real weapons. Absolutely not, Jiwoo said immediately. Then you're dead. All of you. Those Coalition energy weapons might as well be flashlights against Devourer armor. You need plasma. You need kinetic penetrators. You need things that can punch through 3 meters of organic metal. How do we know you won't use these weapons against us? Jiwoo demanded. Taemin smiled sadly. You don't. You just have to trust me. The same way I'm trusting you not to kill me in my sleep, even though I know at least 3 officers on this ship have seriously considered it. Captain Dongwoo made his decision. You'll work under supervision. Hyun-soo will assist you. Any weapons you create stay in armory lockdown until I personally authorize their use. Agreed? Agreed. And Taemin, if you're lying about any of this, I'm not. I wish I was. I wish I could tell you it was all a nightmare from the cryo sleep. But it's real, and it's coming. They released him under heavy guard. Bora waited outside the brig. When she saw him, still covered in dried alien blood, she didn't flinch. She just handed him a clean uniform. Thank you, he said quietly. You saved them. The away team. They'd be dead without you. They're terrified of me now. Everyone is. Yes, Bora admitted. But they're also alive. That has to count for something. In the workshop, Hyun-soo watched in amazement as Taemin sketched designs from memory, weapons that should have been impossible. Armor that bent the laws of physics, ships that could move through space in ways Coalition engineers had never imagined. How do you remember all this? Hyun-soo asked. Neural enhancement, perfect recall. I can remember every briefing, every technical manual, every mission from 600 years ago like it happened yesterday. Taemin looked up from his work. It's both a gift and a curse. I remember everyone I failed to save, everyone who died while I lived. They worked through the night. By morning, they had a prototype, a plasma lance, compact enough to be handheld, but powerful enough to punch through ship hulls. Taemin tested it on a block of reinforced alloy. The alloy vaporized. It works, Hyun-soo whispered. It actually works. Of course it works. We designed these weapons over decades of war. Every flaw was paid for in blood. Every improvement came from failure. Taemin set the weapon down carefully. This is just the beginning. We'll need bigger ones, ship-mounted versions. If the Devourers come with a fleet... The ship's alarms cut him off. Red lights flashed. Captain Dongwoo's voice echoed through the intercom. All hands to battle stations. Multiple contacts emerging from subspace. Unknown hostiles. This is not a drill. Taemin and Hyun-soo ran to the bridge. The view screen showed 3 ships materializing out of nothing. They were organic, twisted, covered in the same black chitin as the scout creature. Devourer vessels, not scouts this time, hunters. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported, confused. Don't respond, Taemin said urgently. They're not trying to communicate. They're analyzing your signal, learning your technology, preparing to feed. But it was too late. One of the Devourer ships fired. The energy beam cut through the Eternal Horizon's shields like they weren't there. The ship shook. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Return fire, Dongwoo ordered. Coalition weapons hit the Devourer ships and bounced off harmlessly. The aliens didn't even slow down. They moved closer, weapons charging. Captain, Taemin said, let me fight. How? You're one person. I'm one human. That used to mean something. Taemin picked up the plasma lance. Get me close enough to board one of those ships. I'll show you what we can do. That's suicide. No, that's Tuesday. Taemin smiled grimly. We did this kind of thing all the time on Earth. One soldier, one ship, one chance. It's how we survived as long as we did. Captain Dongwoo looked at his tactical display. They were losing, fast. In minutes, the Eternal Horizon would be torn apart. He had no choice. Do it, he ordered. And Taemin, come back alive. I'll try. But if I don't, make sure you learn from my mistakes. Build the weapons. Prepare for war, because this is just the beginning. Tae-min stood on the transport pad, holding the plasma lance, preparing to board an alien death ship. Bora pushed through the crowd and hugged him. "Be careful," she said. "Careful doesn't win wars, but I'll try." He stepped onto the pad. "Energize." The last thing he said before transporting was, "For Earth." Tae-min materialized inside the Devourer ship and immediately started killing. The creatures came at him from all directions, but he was ready. 600 years of sleep hadn't dulled his reflexes. The plasma lance burned through armor and flesh. His enhanced body moved like water, flowing between attacks, finding weak points, striking with surgical precision. He fought his way to the ship's core, where the organic machinery pulsed with sick light. He placed the explosives Hyun-soo had given him at strategic points. The Devourers tried to stop him, but they'd never faced a human soldier before. They didn't understand what centuries of desperation could create. The explosion tore through the ship from the inside. Tae-min transported back just as the vessel broke apart. He collapsed on the Eternal Horizon's transport pad, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but alive. The remaining Devourer ships retreated. They'd learned something today. They'd learned that prey could bite back. Captain Dongwoo helped Tae-min to the medical bay himself. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen." "It was the only thing," Tae-min corrected, wincing as Dr. Hana treated his injuries. "Bravery is when you have a choice. We didn't." Word spread through the Eternal Horizon quickly, then through the Coalition fleet, then through the entire galaxy. A human had fought Devourers and won. An extinct species had returned from the grave to save them. Within days, Tae-min was famous. Within weeks, he was a legend. Admiral Kyung-mi herself came to meet him. She was ancient by Coalition standards, a veteran of 100 conflicts, covered in scars from a lifetime of service. She looked at Tae-min with respect and something else: fear. "The Council wants you to train our soldiers," she said. "Teach them to fight like you fight." "I can try, but you need to understand something. Human tactics aren't just about fighting. They're about sacrifice, about accepting that some battles can only be won by dying well." "We're willing to learn." Tae-min spent the next months traveling from fleet to fleet, base to base, world to world. He taught Coalition soldiers things that horrified them: how to use wounds as weapons, how to turn every disadvantage into an advantage, how to keep fighting even when you knew you'd lost. The training was brutal. Soldiers cried. Some quit. But those who stayed became something new, something harder, something that could stand against the Devourers and not break. Bora accompanied him everywhere, helping translate not just languages, but concepts. Coalition species thought differently about war. They fought to protect. Humans, Tae-min explained, fought to survive. There was a difference. "We never had the luxury of mercy," he told a class of young recruits. "Every resource we spent on prisoners was a resource we couldn't spend on survival. Every moment of hesitation cost lives. So we learned to be efficient, clinical, cold." He looked at them seriously. "I'm not proud of what we became, but I'm alive because of it. And if you want to live through what's coming, you need to become it too." Meanwhile, Hyun-soo and a team of engineers worked day and night, building weapons from Tae-min's designs: plasma lances for infantry, kinetic cannons for ships, armor that could withstand Devourer claws. Slowly, painfully, the Coalition military transformed. But the political situation grew complicated. A faction led by a counselor named Dae-hyun opposed Tae-min's influence. They saw him not as a savior, but as a threat, a dangerous relic teaching dangerous ideas. "He's changing us," Dae-hyun argued in council chambers, "making us into something we're not. We're a peaceful coalition. We solve problems through dialogue and cooperation, not violence." "The Devourers don't negotiate," Admiral Kyung-mi countered. "They feed, And if we don't learn to fight like Taemin fights, they'll feed on us. Then maybe we should question why they're appearing now, after 600 years of silence, right after we wake up a human. Dae-hyun let that thought hang in the air. What if he brought them here? What if this is all part of some human plan? The accusation spread. Some believed it. Security around Taemin increased. The friendly faces became fewer. Only Bora, Hyun-soo, Captain Dong-woo, and a handful of others still trusted him completely. "They think you're the enemy," Bora told him one night. They sat in his quarters, looking at star maps. Taemin was planning defenses for the next likely Devourer attack. "I understand why," he said. "I show up, monsters follow. It's a reasonable conclusion. But it's wrong." "Is it?" Taemin leaned back, exhausted. "Maybe I did bring them here. Not intentionally, but my pod, my signal, something. Maybe waking me up was the worst thing the Coalition could have done." "Don't say that." "Why not? It might be true." He looked at his hands, the same hands that had killed hundreds, thousands. "Sometimes I wonder if humanity deserved what happened to us. If we were too violent, too aggressive, too willing to sacrifice everything for survival. Maybe we were the problem all along." Bora took his hand. "You're not a problem. You're a person, and you're saving lives." "At what cost?" "Every tactic I teach makes Coalition soldiers a little less like themselves and a little more like me. A little more like weapons. Is that really saving them?" Before Bora could answer, Taemin's communicator beeped. It was Hyun-soo, voice urgent. "You need to come to the research lab, now. We found something." They ran through the corridors of the station, where Taemin had been training troops. Hyun-soo met them at the door, face pale. "We were analyzing the data from the Devourer ship you destroyed," Hyun-soo explained rapidly. "Looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything useful. And we found coordinates, lots of them, buried in their navigation system." "Coordinates to what?" Taemin asked. "To Earth, to Mars, to Titan, to every major human colony." Hyun-soo pulled up a holographic map. "And to something else, something we need to check." The coordinates led to a dead system 3 jumps away. Captain Dong-woo took the Eternal Horizon there personally, with Taemin aboard. What they found changed everything. It was a human bunker, bigger than the one where they'd found Taemin, much bigger. And according to sensors, some of it was still active. They went down together. Captain Dong-woo, Taemin, Ji-woo, Bora, and a security team. The bunker was massive, stretching kilometers underground. Frozen soldiers filled chamber after chamber, thousands of them, all dead. Power failures had claimed them centuries ago. But they also found data cores. Still functioning, still recording. Taemin accessed one with shaking hands. A hologram appeared, a woman in military uniform, covered in the same enhancements Taemin had. She looked exhausted, defeated. "This is Commander Nari, logging final entry before cryo," the hologram said. "The war is lost. Earth is lost. The Devourers have won. We're freezing the last of our soldiers in the hope that someone, someday, might wake them, might use what we learned, might finish what we started." The hologram flickered. "If you're watching this, then at least one of us survived. Good. Because there's something you need to know, something we learned too late." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The Devourers aren't random. They're not mindless. They're following orders. Someone is directing them. Someone is feeding them coordinates to inhabited worlds. Someone wants the galaxy emptied." The recording ended. Everyone stood in silence. "Someone is controlling them," Bora whispered. "But who?" Taemin accessed another data core. And another. The pattern became clear. Humanity had been close to discovering the truth. They'd traced Devourer movements, found the pattern, identified the source. "There," Taemin said, pointing to a star system on the map. That's where the signal originates. That's where whoever is controlling the Devourers is hiding. We need to tell the Council, Captain Dongwu said. No, Jiwoo said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. Think about it. Someone with enough power to control the Devourers, someone who wants inhabited worlds destroyed. What if they're in the Council? What if that's why the Devourers never attacked Coalition space before? Because someone was protecting them, waiting for the right moment. That's paranoid, Bora objected. Is it? Dae-Hyun has been fighting every defensive measure we propose, every weapon system, every tactical change. What if he's not just a pacifist? What if he's an agent? Taemin looked at the data, his enhanced mind processing patterns the others couldn't see. Jiwoo's right. Look at the attacks. They're not random. They're testing us, probing defenses, learning capabilities. Someone is gathering intelligence. Someone is preparing for something big. What do we do? Captain Dongwu asked. We prepare, Taemin said. We build every weapon we can. We train every soldier we can. We fortify every world we can. And we don't tell anyone what we know until we're ready. He looked at each of them in turn. Because when the real war starts, it's going to make everything before look like practice. They spent months preparing in secret. Taemin pushed himself harder than ever, training elite units, designing new weapons, planning defenses. Bora helped coordinate logistics, using her position to quietly move resources without raising suspicion. Hyun-Soo built manufacturing facilities on remote stations. Captain Dongwu slowly gathered loyal officers, testing their commitment, building a shadow fleet. And then the Devourers attacked, not with scouts, not with probes, with fleets. 7 coalition worlds were hit simultaneously. Billions died in the first day. The Council's conventional forces were overwhelmed. The admirals called for retreat, for evacuation, for anything that would save lives. Admiral Kyung-mi called Taemin instead. Tell me you have something, she said. Anything. I have everything, Taemin replied. Are you ready to fight? Yes. Then here's what we're going to do. The Battle of New Terra became legend. When the Devourer fleet arrived expecting easy prey, they found something different. They found human weapons, human tactics, human determination. Coalition ships armed with plasma cannons tore through Devourer hulls. Soldiers in powered armor that Taemin designed held ground that should have been overrun. Commanders trained in human strategy turned ambushes into massacres, and at the center of it all, Taemin fought, not as a teacher, not as an advisor, as what he truly was, a weapon shaped by necessity. A soldier who had never stopped fighting, even in death. The Devourers lost. For the first time in recorded history, they retreated from a prepared defense. The coalition celebrated. Taemin was hailed as the savior of the galaxy. But that night, alone in his quarters, Taemin looked at casualty reports. 30 million dead, cities destroyed, families shattered, all because of tactics he taught, all because of weapons he designed. Bora found him staring at the numbers. We won, she said gently. Did we? Taemin asked. Or did we just delay losing? You saved billions. I killed millions. There's a difference. He turned to face her. Bora, I'm dying. The enhancements are breaking down. Dr. Hana told me. I have maybe 6 months left. No, Bora whispered. Yes. The technology that kept me alive for 600 years is failing. Every day I can feel myself getting weaker, slower, more human. He smiled sadly. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe the galaxy doesn't need someone like me. The galaxy needs you more than ever. The war isn't over. I know. That's why I need to make my last months count. Taemin pulled up data on his terminal. The source of the Devourer signal. I'm going there. I'm going to end this. Not alone, Bora said firmly. Especially alone. I'm not risking anyone else. Too late. You think Captain Dongwu doesn't know what you're planning? You think Jiwoo isn't already preparing a team? You think Yun-Su isn't building weapons specifically for this mission? Bora smiled through tears. You saved us, Taemin. Now let us save you. He hugged her then, this alien woman who had shown him more kindness than he deserved. Thank you, he whispered, for everything. Outside, stars turned in the eternal dark. The devourers regrouped. Dae-hyun plotted. And somewhere in the distant system that humanity had identified before their death, something waited. The real war was about to begin. The assassination attempt came on a Tuesday. Taemin was in his quarters, reviewing tactical data, when the door exploded inward. 3 assassins rushed through, armed with weapons designed specifically to kill enhanced humans. They were fast, professional, well-trained. They weren't fast enough. Taemin moved on instinct, his dying body still capable of lethal grace. The first assassin died before registering Taemin had moved. The second got off a shot that burned through Taemin's shoulder. The third hesitated. That hesitation cost him his life. When security arrived, they found Taemin standing over 3 bodies, bleeding but alive. The weapons the assassins carried were coalition military issue. Someone with high clearance had supplied them. Dae-hyun, Captain Dongwu said grimly, examining the evidence. It has to be. He's been opposing us at every turn. And now this. But before they could arrest the counselor, alerts screamed across the entire coalition network. The devourers were coming. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds, thousands. A fleet so massive it blocked out stars. Every vessel they had, converging on the coalition capital. It's the end game, Taemin said, watching the tactical display. His shoulder still bled, but Dr. Hana's nanomachines were sealing the wound. They're committing everything. This is the final push. Admiral Kyung-mi called an emergency council. Every fleet, every ship, every soldier. They were all ordered to defend the capital. It would be the largest space battle in recorded history. We can't win, one admiral said, looking at the numbers. They outnumber us 10-1. We don't have to win, Taemin said. We just have to survive long enough. Long enough for what? For me to reach the source. End the signal. Cut off their coordination. Taemin pulled up the coordinates humanity had died discovering. Someone is controlling them. Someone is directing this attack. If I can reach them, kill them, the devourers become mindless, manageable. That's a suicide mission, Admiral Kyung-mi said. I'm already dying. Might as well make it count. Captain Dongwu stepped forward. I'm going with you. So am I, Bora said. And me, Hyun-Soo added. Jiwoo nodded. Someone needs to keep you alive long enough to reach the target. Taemin looked at them, these people who had become his friends in this strange future. You'll probably die. Probably, Captain Dongwu agreed. But you taught us something, Taemin. You taught us that some things are worth dying for. They took a fast ship, newly built from Taemin's designs, armed with the best weapons Hyun-Soo could create. As they departed, the Devourer fleet arrived. The battle for the coalition capital began. Taemin watched from the view screen as thousands of ships engaged in a dance of death. Coalition vessels, using human tactics, fought with a ferocity that surprised the Devourers. Every ship traded itself for maximum damage. Every captain knew they were buying time with their lives. They're fighting like humans now, Bora said quietly. Yes, Taemin replied. I'm sorry for that. Don't be. You gave them a chance. That's more than they had before. The journey to the source took 3 days. 3 days of dodging Devourer patrols. 3 days of watching casualty reports from the capital. 3 days of Taemin growing weaker as his enhancements failed. Dr. Hana, who had insisted on coming despite protests, monitored his condition. "Your body is shutting down," she said. "The nanomachines are cannibalizing themselves for energy. Your enhanced muscles are breaking down. Your neural processing is degrading." "How long do I have?" "Days, maybe less." She looked at him sadly. "I'm sorry. I wish there was something I could do. You've done enough." "You gave me 6 months to make a difference. That's more than most people get." They reached the source system. It was empty. No planets, no stations. Just a single massive structure floating in the void. It was ancient, built from materials that predated any known civilization. And it was active, pulsing with energy, broadcasting the signal that controlled the devourers. "That's it," Taemin said. "That's what we're here to destroy." "The structure is enormous," Hyun-Soo said, running scans. "Destroying it would require explosive force equal to a small star." "Then we'll give it one." Taemin pulled up plans for a weapon humanity had designed but never used. "The Genesis torpedo. We designed it to collapse dimensional barriers. Detonate one inside that structure. It'll tear itself apart." "We don't have a Genesis torpedo," Ji-woo pointed out. "No, but we have the materials to build one. Hyun-Soo, you know what to do." They worked frantically, building the weapon in the ship's cargo bay. But they weren't alone. Devourer ships appeared, emerging from the structure. Dozens, hundreds. "They know we're here," Captain Dongwoo said. "They're coming to stop us." "Then we fight," Taemin said simply. "Buy Hyun-Soo time to finish the weapon." The battle was desperate. Their small ship against a devourer fleet. Captain Dongwoo flew like a madman, dodging and weaving, using every trick Taemin had taught him. Ji-woo manned the weapons, plasma cannons burning through enemy hulls. Bora coordinated shields and power distribution. And Taemin stood at the tactical station, his mind still sharp despite his failing body, calling out maneuvers before the devourers could make them. He'd fought them for so long he knew how they thought, how they moved, how they died. But there were too many. The shields failed. Hull breaches opened. Systems went offline one by one. "The torpedo is ready," Hyun-Soo called from the cargo bay. "But someone needs to fly it into the structure manually. The guidance systems won't work with all this interference." Everyone looked at Taemin. "Of course," he said quietly. "It was always going to be me." "No," Bora said. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. And honestly, this is better. A clean death in battle. That's more than most humans got." Taemin smiled at her. "Don't cry. This is a good ending." He hugged each of them, told them things he'd never said. Thanked them for making his last months matter. Then he climbed into a small fighter craft, the Genesis torpedo attached beneath it. "Taemin," Captain Dongwoo said over the communicator. "It's been an honor." "The honor was mine, Captain. Take care of them. Take care of the galaxy. Don't let humanity's sacrifice be for nothing." He launched. The fighter was fast, slipping between devourer ships, heading for the structure. Energy weapons tore at his shields. His systems screamed warnings, but he kept flying. Bora's voice crackled over the comm. "I love you," she said. "I know," Taemin replied. "I wish I'd had more time to love you back. In another life, maybe." The structure loomed before him. Massive, ancient, evil. He armed the Genesis torpedo, the weapon that could save the galaxy, the weapon that would kill him. But then something changed. Taemin felt a presence in his mind, not his own thoughts, something else, something vast and old and furious. The signal, the intelligence controlling the devourers, and it was speaking to him. "Human," it said, the voice like grinding metal. "You think you've won? You think killing me stops anything? I am merely one of many. We have already conquered 1,000 galaxies. Yours is just the latest." Then I'll die knowing I hurt you, Taemin replied. That's enough. You don't have to die. I can save you, repair your enhancements, make you stronger than ever. All you have to do is stop, turn around, let the devourers finish their work. For a moment, just a moment, Taemin hesitated. To live, to be strong again, to have more time with Bora. It was tempting. Then he thought of Earth, of his unit. Of 6 billion humans who died fighting so that someone, somewhere, might survive. He thought of Captain Dongwoo and Hyun-soo and Ji-woo. He thought of Bora's smile. No, he said. Humanity already gave you our answer. 600 years ago, we told you we'd rather die free than live as slaves. That answer hasn't changed. He pushed the throttle forward, full speed, directly into the structure. The intelligence screamed. The devourers converged, trying to stop him. But it was too late. Taemin's fighter crashed through the structure's outer shell, deep into its core. He ejected the Genesis torpedo and set the timer. 10 seconds. His fighter was destroyed. He found himself floating in the structure's interior, surrounded by alien technology, his suit breached, air leaking away. 5 seconds. He thought of Bora. He thought of Earth. He thought of all the people he'd failed to save. 3 seconds. For humanity, he whispered. The Genesis torpedo detonated. Reality itself screamed. Dimensional barriers collapsed. The structure tore apart, imploding into a singularity that consumed everything. And Taemin, the last human, died. But not alone. The intelligence died with him. The signal ended, and across the galaxy, the Devourer fleet suddenly went silent. Without coordination, without purpose, they became animals. Dangerous, yes, but manageable. The Coalition fleet, battered but unbroken, destroyed them methodically. Admiral Kyung-mi personally led the final assault. Within hours, it was over. The Devourers were gone. The galaxy was saved. On the bridge of what remained of their ship, Captain Dongwoo, Bora, Ji-woo, and Hyun-soo sat in silence. They had won, but the victory felt hollow. He saved us all, Hyun-soo said quietly. He saved everyone, Ji-woo corrected. Every species, every world, every life. All because one human refused to quit. Bora said nothing. She just stared at the space where Taemin had died, tears running down her face. 6 months later, they rebuilt Earth. It took the combined resources of the entire coalition, but they did it. They restored the oceans. They cleaned the air. They built cities. Not for themselves. For him. For humanity. In the center of the largest city, they erected a monument, a statue of Taemin, not in combat stance but at rest, at peace. The inscription read simply, "The last human. He taught us to fight. He taught us to survive. He taught us that some things are worth dying for." Dr. Hana led the effort to recover every scrap of human culture, every data file, every artifact. She spent the rest of her life building museums and libraries dedicated to preserving human memory. Captain Dongwoo took command of the first new ship named after a human, the Taemin's Endurance. Its mission was to explore beyond known space, seeking other threats, ensuring what happened with the Devourers never happened again. Ji-woo became the head of Coalition security. He trained every new recruit personally, teaching them the lessons Taemin had taught him. About vigilance, about sacrifice, about standing against the darkness. Hyun-soo continued building weapons and ships from human designs. But he also built other things. Medical technology, environmental systems, tools that helped rather than destroyed. Taemin showed us how to fight, he often said. Now let's show him we remember how to build. Bora wrote the definitive history of humanity. She spent years interviewing everyone who had met Taemin, gathering every story, preserving every memory. She never married, never moved on. He was my life, she told people. Everything after is just epilogue. The book's final line read, "Humanity didn't fail. They just ran out of time. But in their last moment, in their last soldier, they gave us the future. We owe them everything. We owe him everything." Dae-hyun was arrested and tried for treason. The evidence was overwhelming. He'd been in contact with the intelligence, feeding it information, sabotaging defenses. He claimed he was trying to save the coalition through appeasement. Nobody believed him. He spent the rest of his life in prison, forgotten, but not everything ended in sadness. 1 year after Taemin's death, Ji-woo was exploring another dead world, another bunker, another search for human artifacts. He found something. A signal. Faint. Barely there. But active. A cryogenic pod. Still functioning, still powered, still waiting. He called Dr. Hana immediately. They rushed to the site, hardly daring to hope. The pod was different from Taemin's. Older technology, less advanced. But the body inside was alive, preserved, waiting. They opened the pod carefully. The person inside stirred, eyes opened. A woman, young, with the same enhancements Taemin had. A soldier, a survivor. She looked at them in confusion, then spoke in ancient Korean. Bora translated, tears streaming down her face. The woman had asked, "Did we win?" And Bora replied, "Yes, because of people like you. Because humanity never stopped fighting." They named her Sung-mi. She took longer to adapt than Taemin had. The grief hit her harder, but she had something Taemin never had. She had a galaxy that already loved humanity, that already knew what they were capable of, that already remembered. Bora helped her adjust, taught her about the modern era, told her stories about Taemin, about the last human, about the one who saved them all. "I wish I could have met him," Sung-mi said. "He would have liked you," Bora replied. "He would have been glad to know he wasn't the last after all." They found others over the following years. Not many. A dozen. Maybe 15. The last remnants of humanity, frozen in bunkers across dead worlds, waiting for a future that came 6 centuries late. But they woke up to a galaxy that welcomed them, that honored them, that remembered the sacrifice of the last human and refused to let his people be forgotten. Admiral Kyung-mi gave a speech on the 10th anniversary of Taemin's death. She stood before the monument on Earth, looking up at his peaceful face. "They say humans were violent," she said. "They say humans were dangerous. They say humans were too aggressive, too warlike, too willing to fight, and all of that is true. But they were all so brave. They were all so determined. And when the moment came, when everything was on the line, one human chose to save us all. Not because he had to, not because we deserved it, but because it was the right thing to do. That is the humanity we remember. That is the humanity we honor. That is the humanity we will never forget." The galaxy agreed. In schools across thousands of worlds, children learned about Taemin, about his sacrifice, about the species that refused to quit even in death. Human became synonymous with courage, with resilience, with hope. And on quiet nights, Bora would sit in her apartment on Earth, looking at the stars, remembering the strange man from the past who had changed her life. "Thank you," she would whisper, "for everything." The stars had no answer, but somewhere in whatever comes after death, perhaps Taemin heard her. Perhaps he smiled. Perhaps he finally found peace. Humanity was gone, but they had left the galaxy a gift. They had left a lesson, that even when everything is lost, even when hope is dead, even when defeat seems certain, you fight anyway. You endure anyway. You make your last stand anyway, because that's what it means to be human, and that's a legacy worth remembering forever.